Everyone, it is Shannon, and I'm here today to talk about a film for 31 Days of Horror, and that film is Tormented. This one was fun. Okay, so this is directed by Bert I Gordon. It stars Richard Carlson, Susan Gordon. I don't know if there's a relation to Bert I Gordon. Could be, could be. It also stars Juli and Lugene Sanders. It is from 1960. It is part of the public domain, so if you're curious to watch Tormented, I will leave the link to the Internet Archive down below. It is also available here on YouTube. Yeah, it falls under the genres of thriller, horror, and supernatural. I think it's a bit more thrillery than horror-y, but, you know, we'll get there. I don't know how thrillery it is. I don't know. Anyway, I gave this one a 7.5 out of 10, or a 3.5 out of 5, and a heart. I enjoyed this one. I really did enjoy this one. So, Tormented. So, I actually decided to pick this one because I do actually own it on one of those 50 horror packs from, like, Mill Creek Entertainment, and it's one that I haven't seen. So I thought it would be fun. I do like to include some titles from different decades and such, and I was feeling the vibe of having something sort of supernaturally, and we can see the title here is, or the line, the polar line here is by the she-ghost of Haunted Island. So it's Tormented by the she-ghost of Haunted Island. So this is set on an island. This definitely has the feeling of a summer movie or like a drive-in movie. It's only an hour and 15 minutes, and it has a small setting, a small-ish cast, and like sort of one big premise, and I liked it. I really did like it. So we follow a jazz musician who's on an island, and he ends up talking with his beau, but not his fiance. So he is engaged, but he's obviously still seeing someone else. And she is starting to say things to him, like, she's obviously, really interested in him, and she doesn't want to be the other woman. And then as things, I don't know how spoilery I want to get on these. So that is a question that I should have asked myself before I started filming. Anyway, so I guess we're gonna go spoilers here on this one. Generally, if you like, before I get to spoilers, I will just say generally, if you like this sort of like style of movie, like a short, spooky-ish, but not necessarily the best kind of movie, I would watch it. I enjoyed it a lot. It was a lot of fun. It definitely had that vibe of like a Saturday or a Sunday afternoon movie that's a bit more on the spooky side of things, and I thought it was a lot of fun and quite well done, although not all of it was well done, but it is from 1960, so I think that's okay. Some of the effects were a little like, whoa. So if you haven't seen it and it does sound like it's your thing, I would definitely say check it out, and then from here on in, I will go into spoilers because I think it's fun to talk about it and where the premise goes. And this first one is sort of, happened near the beginning of the film. It is sort of like the setup of the story, but it is a spoiler, so here we go. So he has this discussion with this woman that he's seeing, and things start to not go well. She starts to kind of threaten him that she has letters, or she might expose him to his fiance if she doesn't continue to see her instead. And then things go awry, and she ends up falling off the lighthouse. And then he ends up being tormented. But I think there actually is an interesting question here on whether or not he is being tormented by her ghost, or maybe possibly by his own conscience. Because although he didn't kill her, so going into the super spoilers here, he didn't kill her, he also didn't do anything to help her. And that's an interesting moral question. In terms of a film, I think you should always help someone. I don't think there's any interesting moral question there. You should always help someone instead of letting them die. But especially when they're asking for your help. But in terms of a story, it's an interesting thing. So is he actually being tormented by her as a ghost, or is he being tormented by his own conscience? Because she starts to come up, or things start to happen, but only he can see them. So I think you could play this either way, that it's actually a ghost story. On the poster it says the she-ghost. I've never heard the term she-ghost. I didn't know all ghosts were like supposed to be are men, so you have to put she in front of it, so it's a woman. We'll not get into that. It's from the 60s, so we're not getting into that. But seriously, I don't think ghosts is a gender specific word. It just isn't. Anyway, but this lets you know that the ghost is a woman. So anyway, so but it being on the poster does not necessarily mean that's what they were going for in the film, especially of this era. You know, that being said, yeah, so she starts to appear, things he starts to hear things start to go missing, things start to happen, and they all seem to be her tormenting him, trying to make the wedding go off track, trying to let other people know about what's going on, trying to push him in different ways. And I thought that was all really well done. Most of the effects, I would actually say, were well done. A lot of them were like could have been done. I don't know how they did them, but like, you know, things moving without seeing them or seeing two things at the same time. I think those ones were done very well. There was one photo one that was pretty horrible. And there was one I would almost say is unforgivable. There was one effect that was so bad. It was he saw her like disembodied head, which is creepy. But then we see a visual of him basically holding a wig glued to like a wig holder head styrofoam thing, and like there's no there's no question that that's what we're seeing physically as opposed to a ghost head. Like, and I know they had to think of a way to do it, but I was laughing so hard at that point. I was like, you just can't fake, like that just doesn't look anything like what we just saw as her head as a ghost. So anyways, there's just that one was pretty bad, but the other ones I thought were quite well done and successful, and it is spooky, and like this does have a lot of things that I really enjoyed. I thought the music was good. He's a jazz musician, so that's played into the plot as well. Her clothes are awesome. She wears a great dress. I think it actually says Viv's gown by, like, in the opening credits. But I did find like the storyline is dark, right? Like, so he sees this woman who he was involved in die, and then like 2 days later he's getting married to someone else, and he's not that, you know, perturbed by it. That is the disturbing part, right? And then things start to happen, and it's like it does, yeah, like, and there are lots of psychological thrillers that sort of deal with this kind of thing, like, are you going to say something if no one's going to know? Like, why rock the boat? Why, you know, like those kinds of questions. But I think it's like the moral situation, you know, or the ghost situation, or both, keep on cropping up and keep on pushing him. And it actually really does get to a point where I feel like there's no question, you know, like, you know, what he did is wrong, and or what he did after was wrong. Actions he took after were wrong, and actions he was even going to take even further are definitely wrong. And I don't think like there's any moral like gray area into some of the actions he takes. But I do, the one thing I don't like about where that went is that we did get the ghost of her encouraging him to do things that were wrong, and then that gets a little tricky because it feels like she's not only the other woman, but she's also like, you know, influencing him in like to do bad things. So, but it's like he's the one who did them. He's the one who did all of them, right? He knew he was involved with two women at the same time, you know. But it did sound like she knew that too. But like when it's taking actions further against other people, it's like I didn't like how it's sort of, you could construe it that, you know, you could blame her for egging him on, you know, kind of thing. I thought that got a little uncomfortable for me. But I did really enjoy it. I thought it was stylish. I thought it was spooky. It wasn't scary in terms of like, would I say this is a scary movie? No. Even if I watched this when I was a kid, I probably wouldn't think it's a scary movie. Maybe some of the things moving and stuff, but most of the effects were like okay. And I did like the tone of it, and I really like the opening setup set on the island and in the lighthouse. You come back to the lighthouse again and again. Yeah, and there were some interesting side characters. His fiance's younger sister, quite younger sister, like she's 8. There was some weird stuff with that though, like she talked about wanting to be married, and there were some inappropriate comments that she made about like how other people in other parts of the world that were her age were already married, and like, isn't that great? And it's like, that's actually not great. That's really not great. So there were definitely some outdated things as well in that kind of light, so just be aware of that. But then again, this is from the 60s, which is now almost 70 years ago. So it's 69 years ago. Is that math right? Yeah, 69 years ago. And no, 40, 50, 59 years ago. So yeah, so I think there's always an awareness factor when you're watching something that's from a while ago. And but still it was a little that was cringy. That was cringy. But I did enjoy it overall. It was a nice addition to the mix to have something that is a different tone and a different take. Is it like classically horror? Not so much, like, but it is supernatural, which I think is almost always horror. But this is a bit more of a like a drama in terms of a moral question being asked. But I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the beginning. I love the end, the how they wrap things up. Not necessarily like how they wrap it up, but just visually, sort of like the last sort of like 2 minutes and like moments. And I don't remember if it's when the credits come up or not, but it's just like how things fall. Like it's totally like tragic, but it's awesome. So I really love that. Maybe it's almost, it's not necessarily melodramatic, but it's like almost there. And I like that. So I enjoyed Tormented. It was a fun one to add to the mix. If you are interested in it, as I mentioned, it is public domain. So I will leave the link down below to the Internet Archive if you would like to check it out. Let me know, have you seen it? Do you like other films like this? Do you have any recommendations for films of this kind of vibe? Because I really enjoy watching them. So there you go. That was Tormented.